2025 Portland, Oregon real estate market update. Got a little bit of good news, got some bad news. I think it's more so good than bad. We're going to dig into some data and talk about what we've seen so far for this year and what we expect for the rest of the year. Stick around. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel Living in Oregon. I'm your host, Seth Marchant, licensed real estate broker in the state of Oregon and Washington. Or if you're new to this channel, Living in Oregon, we show you what it's like to live here, mostly focusing around the Portland, Vancouver area. So if you want to see more videos about not just real estate market updates like you're going to see today, but driving videos, drone footage, videos that really get to introduce you to the neighborhoods, make sure and subscribe to this channel, hit the bell, that way you're notified. All right, let's dig in. Let's talk about rates first. That's been the talk mostly over the past couple of years, and it's been a little bit of a surprise recently. I've had a little bit of rate relief as it stands as I'm shooting this right now. 30-year conventional sits at 6.8%, which to me, you tell me if it feels a little bit high to you, but that feels a little bit higher, and I think that's because we're all anticipating lower rates in 2025, but actually we are lower than we were a year ago. We were just over 7% at the same time in 2023. So we have had a little bit of rate relief, but last year, particularly in the second half of 2024, people expected rates to be closer to 6 right now, and actually closer to 6 towards the end of the year. If you remember, last year, the Fed cut rates 3 times, twice for a quarter, once for half a point, totaling a full point, and yet interest rates didn't really go down, and that confused people a little bit. So there's 2 reasons for that. One, lenders had already factored in that the Fed was going to cut rates, and they'd actually lowered rates a little bit in advance. And 2, the Fed rate isn't the only thing that dictates mortgage rates. There's other things that come into play, like the 10-year Treasury. And the 10-year, as we saw towards the end of 2024, as some would say, was ripping. Some predicted it was going to get close to 5. I think it topped out around 4.8. It's at 4.3 right now, so coming back down. So mortgage-backed securities have to be competitive with that 10-year, so they have to raise their rates to increase their yields to do so. And so with the trend of the 10-year right now, we might expect mortgage rates to stay a little bit closer to where they're at right now. Looking at the real estate data from last quarter, what we saw on the ground, Paul and I and some of our peers, some of the transactions that we saw, some of the stories that we heard, was more competitive than we had anticipated. But looking at some of the most recent data that I'll show you here in just a moment makes a lot of sense, because it was pretty competitive over these past 3 months. Now, we are seasonal here in Oregon, so it's not uncommon for inventory to build up in the winter time. We saw new listings down month over month and new listings down year over year, with sales actually being up month over month, which gives us lower inventory. And of course, we want that inventory to build. That's the big storyline other than rates is inventory. And inventory has built a little bit over the past couple of years from 2021 and 2022. But it's more so homes that are probably mispriced and sitting on the market for longer. More so the case than it is there's just more buyers out there than sellers. So sellers can still price their home aggressively and expect to receive multiple offers. And we're still seeing that too. We're still running into multiple offer situations even in the slower winter time. Now, if you've watched my videos before, I've described this market as sort of the haves and the have-nots. And that's because there's a lot of homes that people like you are sitting at home watching online on Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, Realtor.com, and you're seeing homes go under contract very quickly. It feels like it's a very competitive market. And then conversely, there's some people out there shopping for homes that maybe aren't average homes. Maybe something uncommon about those homes, and those homes don't tend to be priced as aggressively and consequently sit on the market for longer. So some of those buyers out there feel like it's not a super competitive market. They might even feel like home values aren't necessarily appreciating, which they are, although not by a lot, but they are. Home values are not going down year over year, at least not in Oregon. So it can be a little bit of a confusing market too. And that's all the more reason why you need a real estate professional more than ever that's going to be able to help you navigate this type of market. You need a realtor that's not only going to be experienced, competent, but it also really helps to have a realtor that has great communication, which I think that I do. I imagine that you might agree if you're still watching me here on this video on YouTube. Communication is really important in real estate transactions because in order to be competitive, you have to have the information. I've listed homes before in which I've received offers from a buyer's agent in which that buyer's agent never contacted me. The offer sort of seemingly came out of the blue. It's like, who is this person? Whereas when I'm representing my buyers, I always want to speak to the listing agent, perhaps multiple times, definitely before we submit an offer, so that I can gather as much information as possible so that we can construct the offer that we believe that has the greatest chance of winning. So if you have questions, if you want to get in touch, if you want to take the next steps, anything at all, hit that QR code from TV if you're watching. That'll take you to our website. You can also find all of our contact information in the description below. You can also find a link to this report that I'm referencing in the description if you want to take a look a little bit more and kind of dig into that. A few more details on that report, some of the data points that we're seeing that shows us that it's a little bit more competitive. Average days on market are down from the past report, which is about 3 months ago. And average sold price change is slightly up, meaning that sellers are getting closer to what they list for, closer to what they want, which indicates that sellers are having a little bit more leverage than buyers right now. So it is a little bit of a tough market for buyers, but I do have reason to be optimistic. I think with rates where they're at and some of the other market conditions, we might expect there to be less volatility this year. It's not always necessarily the higher rates that kind of dampen the market. It's the rate shock. It's when rates jump up, especially significantly, and buyers have to make that adjustment. They have to do some different calculus. It causes them to stop and think, hey, maybe we should wait. Maybe we should wait to see if rates come back down. So it's always when rates jump up that the market sort of slows down, but then people adjust. We've been in the sixes for a while, so people have had a few years to adjust now. And maybe with some of those pent-up sellers coming to market, I can definitely envision more transactions in 2025, which would be healthy for everybody, to get more towards a balanced market in which sellers are getting a good deal, but buyers are also feeling like they're getting a good deal. So I do see a lot of opportunity in 2025. But in conclusion, expect lower rates from last year, maybe just slightly. Expect things to be a little bit more competitive. For some of you buyers maybe looking for a place for some relief, you might look towards new construction. We expect a lot of incentives from builders in 2025 on new construction, and know that you definitely need somebody like myself, a buyer's agent, to represent you in new construction. Some people think that, well, why do I need a buyer's agent when I'm building a new home? The builder's gonna, take care of everything for me. Well, the builder isn't always gonna do what you want. They're not always gonna be your best friend. Not necessarily always going to roll out the red carpet. I don't know if you've ever bought a brand new home before, but there's usually kind of like this feeling or this expectation that you're buying a brand new home, the most expensive purchase of your life. And that builder is gonna kind of sort of, roll out the proverbial red carpet for you. And that's oftentimes not the case. We also see people that expect that they're just simply gonna get a better price by eliminating the broker, which does make sense, right? Because if you eliminate a middleman, you eliminate a fee, then potentially you can have a lower purchase price. You see that in the resale market. You see people going at it alone, listing their home alone, or trying to buy a home without an agent. And sometimes that's the case. I do think that sometimes people get a slightly better deal on their own. The data doesn't show that, but I'm sure there's some people out there that are exceptions. Not the case with new construction, though. I've never heard of somebody getting a better price because they didn't use a buyer's agent on the transaction. In fact, I usually see people getting worse deals, and I see people struggling to negotiate certain things with builders throughout the transaction. I'll just give you one example for a home that I have under contract now that's a dirt build, meaning it's the buyers are selecting all of the finishes. They're choosing everything from the dirt up. It's not a new build that's like halfway through. So the buyers are going through and choosing all of their finishes. And they decided that they didn't love the paint that they chose, and they wanted to change the paint. But the builder said, well, we have other homes that we're building nearby or next door that have similar or the same paint that you want, and we don't want to do that. So I had to come in there, negotiate with the builder, and I was actually able to get that done for the buyers. Now, we're not going to be able to get everything done for you, but we are able sometimes to negotiate things that you can't negotiate. So look for new construction in 2025 if you're looking maybe to get a new deal. Any questions about that, call, text, email, however you want to get in touch. If you want to see more videos about what it's like to live around the Portland, Vancouver area, make sure and subscribe to this channel. This is going to be the best channel to be a resource for you to understand what it's like to live here. And if this video helped you, give me a thumbs up. Lets me know I'm doing a good job. Feel free to leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about the real estate market, what you're going to expect for 2025, what are maybe some of your concerns. And until next time, take care, everyone.